Hey everyone, this is me, Undead Viking, and this game is called Lab Wars. Now, Lab Wars puts each player in charge of their own special little high-tech lab where they're all doing experiments and researching and trying to, collect the most impact points or victory points by earning certain rewards that are very much part of the scientific community, such as these nurture papers, publishing books, or even earning a Nobel Prize. Now, you'll be racing against the other people and also trying to sabotage their experiments by hopefully outguessing them when it comes to picking their roll card each and every turn. So that might not make a lot of sense right now, but let me show you how the game is played, and then you will probably have a better idea of what I've just said. Alright, cool. Let me show you how to play Lab Wars. Alright, let's learn how to play Lab Wars. Alright, so just what you see in front of you is how you will be setting up the game. These two cards here, everybody is going to have these two cards as lab equipment to begin the game. These pipettes and thermal cycler. And each person also is going to have these 5 different roll cards of the possible person that you're going to play that is working in your lab that particular turn. Now, it's very important that the one you pick not only gives you the power and the ability that you want, but also you're trying to also, if you notice on the bottom of these, some of these cards, they have this little symbol here, and that means you're trying to sabotage somebody else. So if you play the Emeritus and somebody else plays their principal investigator, you successfully sabotage them, and then you can give them this negative effect of must discard their hand down to 1. This is a game where you're going to be playing these particular people one by one, and then you can't use them until you play the Professor card, where the Professor card gives you the ability of taking back all of the characters they've used, and you don't discard your Professor. The problem, of course, is that you'll notice that the postdoc actually does sabotage the Professor, so it might not be the wisest thing in the world to wait until the last moment to use your Professor card, because people are going to have a pretty good idea that you're going to use it at that point. So just keep that in mind. But I like games with these different action cards that you kind of keep in front of you or whatever, and play them, because this is a game where when you play them, you leave them face up next to you, like so, and so everybody can see which ones you've played and have an idea of what's still left in your hand, and then can act accordingly. Of course, because of the fact that they have different abilities, like. And a lot of these, when you see this little star here, that means it's a bonus ability, and you take that during the bonus point during a round. I'll explain that in just a little bit. But it's like change the specialisms generated of up to 2 lab items this turn. Now, that might not make much sense. Let me explain that real quick. So here, actually, the first 2 that you get, both these pipettes and this thermal cycler, you'll notice that they have this little symbol here. That means, of course, you turn them over like this, and that means that you've activated them on your turn. And when you do that, they generate certain resources, and in this case you can see it generates that resource there, and this one generates that resource there. And then if you have enough of that resource, it then of course can be used for different things. Like this allows you to draw more lab items if you have enough. Of course, lab items are actually these cards that are here. One quick thing, whenever you draw cards and put them in your hand, you have a maximum hand limit of 5 unless you get a certain piece of technology that allows you to increase up to 7, but normally it's 5. If you ever have more than 5 cards in your hand, it doesn't matter if they're these lab item cards or these action cards, which I'll explain also in just a little bit, you have to discard down to 5. It isn't something where at the end of the round you need to discard down to 5. No, immediately when you have too many, you have to discard down to 5. And then these little pipettes here, they earn you more of these research points. Well, you use them to gain this resource, then these turn into those, and more research points. And I'll explain all of that here in just a brief moment, but just some basic things. And then the big thing that you're doing is you're trying to collect these cards up here, the Nobel Prize, the published books, and the nurture papers. You'll notice these are worth points at the end of the game. They're worth 2 impact points, whereas the most impact points will win the game. You'll notice that these increase in cost over here, and then they managed to maintain just being 2 impact points each turn. And then so you can just kind of see these, published book, they cost 6, and then 8, and then 10, and so, and they're worth 4 impact points. And finally, of course, the big one, the Nobel Prize, it costs 15, but it's worth 10. But you only have one of these. You can't, get both of them. You only have one at a time. So, those are the ones. And the game actually ends when 2 of those decks have been cleaned out, and there aren't any more of those cards available. Alright, so how do you play the game? Well, you and everybody else that's playing will look at your different roles. You'll pick one that you want to play, so, and let's see here, I like, this is always a good one to start off with. Pick up 3 cards from the lab item deck, keep 2 in your hand, discard the other. So you put that face down in front of you, and then you put the rest of them over here. Then everybody reveals the cards at the exact same time, and then you see if you have any sabotage abilities on that particular turn. If you do sabotage somebody, then you can take, of course, the sabotage thing. But the first thing you do is you do get your bonus phase. So the bonus phase is anything that has this particular star on it. And so this one says I get to pick up 3 cards in the lab item deck, and then I keep 2 in my hand, and I discard the other. No, I apologize. I should have drawn 3 cards to begin with. You do start with 3 lab item cards. So these would be my 3 lab item cards. Another Pipettes, and then a Crazed Technician, which is just allows you to trash cards and receive more of these research points from the bank. And then a Genome, generate a specialism of your choice. So you just get to pick one. And so then you can see, to put them down, you can see there's a certain cost or whatever. Normally, on the first, when you begin your turn, you do get to take one from the bank automatically, one of these research points. And you do get to draw cards as well, but not on the first turn of the game. But keep in mind that after the first turn, you will generate those resources automatically. So, since I have the Principal Investigator, I'll go ahead and I draw 3 here. I keep 2 in my hand, so I'm going to go ahead and look at these 3. Alright, so you notice these 2 have this little bonus thing. I'll explain that in a second. So here I have a Fluorescent Tech, it costs 4, and then plus 1 each, and then has certain things. Discard a card from your hand to receive its value in research points, or discard 1 card from your hand to receive its value in lab item cards. Okay, I should say one quick thing. Any cards, any research points that you earn during the experimental phase, when you actually are going to be using your lab item cards that are in front of you, they have to be used that turn. You don't take them from the bank. Research points that you gain through the bonus section, or before you're doing your experiments, are actually these little cubes. So the ones that are cubes, obviously you get to hold on to them and keep them as the game progresses, but the other ones have to be used that particular turn. That's a very important thing to remember. So I have that one, and then, okay, these 2 have these little bonus things on there. So that means that during the bonus phase, they actually give what you were looking for. So this one, if I have 4 research points, you flip it on its side, and I place up to 3 of my research points on this card. And then during the bonus phase, I retake the amount that I put on the card and take an equal amount from the bank and 1 lab item from the deck. So you kind of bank your research points, and then the next turn you have a bigger turn. I should mention, no matter how big your turn is, you can only buy up to 2 cards during any particular turn. So you can't just buy a whole bunch if you save up for a certain thing. But anyway, and then over here we have Research Grant. During the next bonus phase, you may pay 2 research points for 1 action card, or just take an additional one. So you have these little special abilities. I like that tree with the money on it, because it's a research grant, right? So I got to pick 2 of these. I like the DNA sequencer, and I like the ability to kind of pick whichever one I want. So I'm going to go ahead and discard that one, and then I have my hand of 5 cards. Now, hopefully nobody took care of my emeritus. But if I had, maybe somebody had played the Principal Investigator, so I tell that person, discard your card, hand down to 1, because the sabotage phase happens after you do your bonus section of your cards, and then you go right into, each person then takes their turn, and then you just go ahead, and now is when you're going to be flipping your cards or playing other cards if you have enough. So I could, with these Pipettes, and this is probably what I'd end up doing, is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pay these two like so, and I'm going to place another pipettes down like so. So then I have 3 of those, or 2 of those. And then, now technically, like if I turn these like this, which means that I've used them, in this case I would create those resources this turn. Of course I really can't do anything because nothing costs 2 over there. But let's, just for experience, show you how this works. If I still had 2, and I burned these 2, I turned the pipettes over, and I earned 2 total on this little symbol there, that would say that I earned 2 research points. And so I would take those 2 invisible research points, I take these 2, I could turn them in, and I could take this nurture paper. And I could put that down next to my little tableau, and showing that I've earned 2 impact points worth at the end of the game. Now, oh, I should also mention, I apologize, that the action cards, if you sabotage somebody, you get to take one of these cards. Also, you know, because these action cards, then, so like you can see, radioactive sabotage, target competitors do not receive a character bonus on their next turn. And these cards can be played at any time during your turn on anybody else. Also, it should be said that if you have more than 1 person that you can sabotage, you only get to pick 1 person. So you get to pick one of your enemies at the table to do your sabotage against. Also, if more than 1 person can sabotage the same person, the person that is like the first player or closest to the first player gets the first right of sabotage. You can't sabotage somebody more than 1 time. So just keep that in mind with the sabotage timing, if you will. So then that was how, like I said, you'd earn that for the nurture paper. And then what happens then is that you go through, everybody takes their turn, and then the next turn you get to, you take 2 research points because you have those, and then you, at the beginning of your next turn, and then you take 1 lab item card, you automatically get 1, so let's see what we got here. We got the patent. Place 1, on the bonus phase, you place 1 research point on this card. And anytime during your turn, you may collect all the research points on this card if you do not place any more on this card. If you do not place any more research points on this card during your phase. Alright, so put that in, and you should mention that during the bonus phase, you place 1 on the card. That doesn't come from your supply, it would come from the bank. So this slowly piles up on the old patent card. You know, so, you know, and then you can eventually take them all as they're slowly gaining. But so then you get 5 cards, and then you're going to go through the whole thing again. Remember, you keep this one out so everybody can see it. You pick one of these cards, and you go through that process. Now, I should mention, there's something I do like about this, is that, you know, a lot of times, like, you'll be playing a game where people are earning research points, and they're gaining, like, I got, like, 7 nurture papers, you know, and there's, like, no way that you can really fight against that. You do actually, there are these little cards in here, like falsification. Play rock, paper, scissors. Whoever has more nurture papers, if you win, steal a nurture paper of theirs and place it in your library. So you can actually take victory points away from somebody as you're playing the game, which is actually a very important aspect of, you know, that I liked about this thing, is that, you know, it wasn't ever a situation where you're just looking up at somebody who's got, you know, 8,000 victory points and there's no way that you can possibly win. So you continue playing the game as I showed you until you run out of 2 of these decks, and as soon as that is done, you total up the victory points, or impact points, I should say, and then whoever has the most, obviously, will win the game of Lab Wars. All right, so it is a very clever little game. It has a couple, you know, some cool things going on. I always enjoy games that have these little roles and the roll cards, and like you have to kind of outthink people. And I like how the card plays together, and how the theme, you know, really brings the game together as well. But I'll talk about all of that in my final thoughts. Alright, thank you very much for learning how to play Lab Wars. You know, a long time ago, when I was in college, and this is a long time ago, I actually worked as an assistant in a lab for about 2-3 months or so. And, you know, it wasn't exactly glamorous. I was more of a grunt worker than anything else. But it was kind of cool when somebody said, hey, you know, what are you doing for a job? And I said, oh, you know, I was a lab assistant, which, you know, really meant I was just writing down data on spreadsheets and you know, just lugging stuff from here to there. But it was really cool that I got to do that. I didn't involve myself in any sabotage or anything like in here, but, you know, I mean, I just did experimental stuff for, like, people, the professors and what have you. But anyway, so, there you go. That is Lab Wars. Now, as I said, I really enjoy games that have these little cards that are like picking a role or whatever and trying to outthink what the other people are going to pick. And I do like those moments when you're kind of forced to do certain things, you know, like because you need them to complete your turn, but you might be thinking that the other person's going to think that you're doing the exact same thing and trying to outguess you. Now, obviously, that is compounded by the fact that these cards are played face up in front of you, and so people can look and see which ones you played. Now, I remember I played the game with a buddy of mine, and he said, these should be face down, you know, because I don't think it's fair that you get to just deduce which ones I have left. And I said, well, I think that actually adds to the game, because it's kind of adds that bluff and then the counter bluff to it. And also, then what that meant was, to me, was it didn't seem like anybody would ever really play the professor until, like, the very last one. Or the thing is, all you'd be doing is sitting around waiting to see if, like, they got, because if, you know, if they got down to 4, they'd have to play the professor, obviously, because the professor's the only one that allows you to take all the cards back. But the thing is also, it's just like, you know, it isn't fair if, like, another player, you know, is just really good at remembering that, you know, the cards that are being played in front of you, and then that another player just isn't, you know, like they just can't, you know, they don't have the process to, like, you know, do those little mental checks and balances. I have a buddy, his name is Shad. He's just got, like, for math and things like that, he's just got an eidetic memory for it, and he can count cards and things like that, and he just, bam, he just knows things like that. And so whenever we play games like this, if it isn't open information, he's kind of got a leg up on everybody. But so I do like the fact that they're face up, and I think that adds a great bit of fun to the game, because I like the bluffing of people and the counter bluffing. Now, that one section, of course, like playing the card and reveal, I've said in many different games, I love the reveal moment. I love that, like, expectation, you know, the hesitancy, if you will. Which one do I pick? I love those decisions. But, I mean, as a whole, the game just works. It's, like, as I said, the theme is brought together by the different cards. The artwork is very nice. And, you know, it isn't, you know, I mean, this isn't, like, it seems like this should be, like, a deck-building game, but it really isn't a deck-building game. This is, like, an engine building game. As you place different cards down and increase the things that you have in front of you, you start getting cards that work together and have synergies and things like that. And I like games like that, where I can kind of see, you know, technically my lab being slowly created from the ground up as I get bigger and better equipment and have more and more options available to me. And I kind of like that little, that slow chug 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 as you climb up the ladder. I do like games like this, and I like this theme, and that's why I really liked Lab Wars. So if you have any questions about the game, by all means ask away. I'll be happy to answer those to the best of my ability. Thank you very much, as always, for taking the time to watch this video. And until next time, I'm the Undead Viking, and I'm telling you to have yourself one heck of an awesome day. Alright, bye-bye.